My father was a sheriff's deputy, which ironically always made me feel incredibly safe. That feeling lasted right up until the day the family next door moved in. They had a son, about 19 years old, who we'll just call Ethan. Now, Ethan wasn't just a bit odd. He was deeply twisted. He was obsessed with the most graphic slasher films you can imagine. Whenever he saw my dad, he'd try to get him to talk about the most horrifying things he'd seen as a cop, or even things he imagined happened during my dad's service in Vietnam. It was unsettling. He also had this disturbing habit of tormenting stray animals. To put it bluntly, the guy was a full-blown whack job. But what truly set my dad on edge, what really crossed a line, was Ethan's growing obsession with my 7-year-old sister, Lily. It started small. He'd try to strike up conversations with her when she was walking home from the school bus stop at the end of our street. Then he'd talk to her over the fence while she was just trying to play in our backyard. It was all deeply unsettling. But at first, my parents tried to dismiss it as him just being weird and socially awkward. That all changed the night he called our house and specifically asked to speak to her. That was the absolute breaking point. My dad didn't hesitate. He walked straight across the lawn, right up to their front door, and completely flipped out at Ethan and his parents. He laid down a very clear, unambiguous threat: stay the hell away from Lily, or you will face the consequences. And coming from my dad, that was not something you took lightly. After that confrontation, things seemed to quiet down, but then they got weird in a different way. Now, Lily was always an imaginative kid. She was prone to the usual childhood fears, thinking there were monsters under her bed, and things like that. So when she started telling us there was something living in her closet, something that she was too scared to tell us about at night, we kinda blew it off. We thought it was just another phase, another monster of the week born from her active imagination. We reassured her, told her it was just her mind playing tricks, and left it at that. We should have listened. A few weeks went by. Then, one Friday night, my wife and Lily were staying over at my mother S place for a girls' night out. That meant I was home alone for the weekend. It was a rare, quiet night. I flipped on HBO, watched a couple of movies, and eventually just drifted off to sleep on the downstairs couch. It must have been around 2 a.m. when the piercing ring of the phone tore me out of a deep sleep. I groggily picked it up. It was my neighbor, Ethan's mom. "We saw that you were up," she said, and her voice was frantic, laced with panic. "He called. Ethan is missing." I went by his room to use the bathroom, and his door was open, which is just never happens. There was no sign of him. "We need help looking for him. We're about to call the police." My blood ran cold. I had been passed out on the couch for hours. I knew for a fact that no lights were on downstairs. I asked her, my voice probably shaking, "What do you mean you saw I was up? The house is dark." There was a pause, and then she whispered, "Oh, he saw you. He saw you walking around upstairs, and the light is on in the hallway." I hung up the phone. I didn't even say goodbye. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Without a second thought, I bolted out the front door, my only thought being to get to my truck and grab my shotgun. But as I reached the driveway, I froze. I saw the familiar flashing lights of a Sheriff S car pulling up to my neighbor S house. I booked it straight over to the deputy, my mind racing. I told him, "Forget the missing person call. There is an intruder in my house right now." As I was talking to him, I looked up at my own home. My heart sank. The lights in my daughter's bedroom were on. And against the illuminated window, I saw it. The unmistakable silhouette of a man, pacing back and forth, inside her room. The deputies didn't waste any time. They went in, clearing the house room by room. And when they finally got to Lily's room, they found him. They found Ethan. He wasn't in the hallway like his mom had said. He was right where Lily had been telling us the monster was all along. He was in her closet. He had created a nice little setup for himself in there. He had snacks, a water bottle, a blanket. He was just sitting there, waiting. When the deputies questioned him, he told them he just liked to watch her sleep in the moonlight. He had been sneaking into our house for weeks, hiding in her closet, being the monster she was too afraid to describe. My imaginative little girl wasn't imagining a thing. She was telling us the truth.